Hi, today we're going to be making what I call an Italian casserole. I'm a little bit partial and I make a lot of Italian meals, but in the Italian cuisine there's not a lot of casserole dishes. So this recipe is wonderful because it's a casserole, which means it's easy to make ahead of time and it's a nice comfort food, but it involves all of the classic flavors that you find in Italian cooking. So we're going to start with a half a cup of onion. And I'm using the diced frozen onion because it's easy and it saves on time. And I just need a half a cup of that. And I'm going to add it to my pan on the stove. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Next, we're going to add a clove of garlic. And you're just going to mince it. You want to peel it and mince the garlic. And you're going to add that to the pan as well. The next ingredient is zucchini, which is a classic Italian vegetable. And you're going to use 3 zucchinis. And what I do is I just cut the tops and the bottoms off, and then I slice it lengthwise in half, and then I slice those in half. And you're just going to chop these into about 1-inch pieces. So now I've added all the zucchini into the pan. And we're going to get the flame going on it, heat it up. And you're just going to let this saute for a couple minutes so the vegetables soften. While this is cooking, I'm going to preheat my oven to 400 degrees. And also, while that's cooking, we are going to add tomato paste. This is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. And I don't know if you've ever been frustrated by these cans, but it's very difficult to get the tomato paste out. So the trick that I have is you want to use your can opener and open the top the way you normally would. Flip it over and open the bottom. And then you're going to start pushing the top lid and it just starts coming out. You of course want to remove this metal lid. It doesn't go into your cooking. And you just drop the entire can of tomato paste into the dish, removing the other metal lid, and now you've got everything out of your can. And you want to stir this. What's going to happen is the tomato paste is going to start to melt down, and then it's going to start to bubble, and that's called caramelizing. And that adds a really robust flavor to the dish, and it almost makes it a little bit sweet. So everything's mixed in, the tomato paste is really nicely caramelizing. And now I'm going to add my meat. What I want to do is I want to push all of the vegetables to one side of the pan. And that's going to give me room to cook my meat without having to mix them for right now. I'm going to be using ground turkey meat from the package. It's easy. And you're just going to dump that into your pan. Now, if you don't have one of these tools, you really have to get one. They are the best at really chopping up ground meat, and it makes it into like really fine little bits. You can certainly use a fork to do the same job, but it's just a little bit more tedious. So if you find that you use ground meat a lot in a lot of your dishes, you need to get one of these tools. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to break apart the ground meat. My vegetables are staying warm at the other side of the pan. And I'm going to keep crushing and mixing the meat until it's entirely cooked. So the meat is fully cooked now, and I'm going to mix everything back together. The vegetables stayed warm and they didn't get crushed by my utensil while I was cooking the meat. The next thing we're going to add to this is white wine. You can omit this step if you don't like to use alcohol in your cooking. But what I usually do is I buy these little bottles because they're a perfect portion for any dish, and that way you're not opening an entire bottle of wine and then it's sitting in your refrigerator going bad. So I'm using just a small bottle of white wine. If you do omit this step, it doesn't change the way we're going to count and portion out the dish at the end of the video. But you want to add the wine in and let that simmer and cook down, and all the alcohol will burn off. While that's cooking, we're going to move to our next step, which is cutting our potatoes. These are Yukon Gold potatoes. I like to use them because they have a little bit more flavor than an Idaho russet potato, and they actually have a little bit more nutritional value in terms of vitamins and minerals. You can certainly use an Idaho russet potato. If you do, you would just use 2. And because these are smaller yellow potatoes, I'm going to use 4. They're already cleaned and washed, and what you're going to do is just slice them. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want them in thinner slices. And I'm just going to discard the little ends on each side. So my potatoes have been sliced, and we're going to add them to our casserole dish. So this is a 9 by 13 casserole pan, and to it I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, and that's just so the casserole doesn't stick. And I'm going to use my clean hand to spread the olive oil evenly around the pan. You want to get it up on the sides as well. Okay, so with that being prepared, you're going to add your sliced potatoes along the bottom of the casserole dish. You want to overlap them, make sure there's no visible gaps. Okay, so I've got the last of my potatoes, and you can see it just lines the bottom of the dish very nicely. At this point, my meat and vegetable mixture is done cooking. The alcohol has been burned off. Now I'm going to take cheese. I'm buying the already packaged shredded cheese. I like the mozzarella provolone mix. You can certainly do any kind of cheese that you like, but keeping it in the Italian arena would be good. So this is my mozzarella provolone mix. This is 2 cups in the package, but I need 3. So here's my 3rd cup here. And what you're going to do is sprinkle about half of this onto the potatoes. So now that half of my cheese mixture has been spread over the potatoes, I'm going to grab my meat and veggie mixture. And I'm going to spoon this over the top nice and evenly. So now that all my mixture is into the casserole dish, I'm going to top it with the remaining 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. I'm going to cover this with foil. Now at this point you have a few choices. You can put this in the freezer and heat it up another day. If you're going to do that, you want it to thaw before you put it in the oven. You can cook it immediately, which is what we're going to do right now. And if you do that, you want to bake it on the 400-degree oven for 20 minutes. Then you want to remove the foil and cook it for another 20 minutes, and that allows the cheese on top to get brown and bubbly. If you are a single person and this is a lot of food for you in one sitting, obviously, you can portion it and freeze it. But what I would suggest you do is you cook it first and then portion it into your individual servings and then freeze those. So then all you have to do when you're ready to eat it is just microwave it. So this is gonna go in the oven. So my Italian casserole has been baking now for 20 minutes with the foil off, and I'm ready to remove it from the oven. And it looks wonderful. And the way that you want to portion this out is basically 1/8 of this. So you're going to cut it in half down the middle. And then cut it in half this way and quarter. So okay. So 1/8 of the casserole dish equals 1 grain, 3 protein, and 1 fat. Enjoy.